What's up, everybody? We are going over my deck that I took to Infinite this month. Yes, day one Infinite with Loki, the new Season Pass card. I want to go ahead and get into the deck that I used, the reason for some of my choices, the key combos of the deck. But before we do that, please hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed so that you can catch all my content, help support the channel. I appreciate it very much. Channel's growing like crazy, putting out a lot of great content. So make sure you're around for that. First up, we have the deck. I called it Loki for all the times, because that's what they. Anyway, so this is a deck that started. Basically, the list I'm using, I started off of a list I saw from Lammy, and I kind of took it and tweaked it from there. So shortly after I got the list, the buffs and nerfs came out, and Snowguard got a huge buff, and actually just synergized super well with this deck. So I went ahead and added Snowguard. Was super impressed with this card. So if you're looking for a deck to try out Snowguard with the buff, this is a great deck for it. Now let's kind of go over the card choices because some of these probably look a little weird. Uh, honestly, everyone freaks out about Jeff. Like, oh, what? Why is Jeff in every deck? What are you doing with Jeff in there? I just like Jeff. Okay, Jeff is better in this deck as like Cable or something like that. So if you don't have Jeff, don't worry. We'll cover that in the replacements. Um, you've got Kitty Pryde, you've got Snowguard, you've got Mirage, you've got Agent Coulson, and stuff like that to synergize with the Collector, as well as Loki, which is the big one to swap out your hand. You've got Legion and Shang for some tech, and you've got Chavez for consistency. This is a deck. I go over this, I feel like, in every video because I just personally really love Chavez. I think I have more boosters for Chavez than any other card. Decks like this that want a very particular set of cards early should always be running Chavez. Now, real quick, I wanted to cover some cards that you probably are wondering why they're not in the deck. So the main one I have been getting asked about is Devil Dino. You don't want Devil Dino. It's fine to run in decks like this, obviously, but Loki in particular, you really want cheaper cards that generate you more cards because you want to fill your hand as soon as possible so you get the most value off of your Loki, which Devil Dino does not help with. All Devil Dino does is clog up your hand. I guess technically it contributes to the get a big hand size plan, but you just rather have something else, something like Agent Coulson or something like Mirage to get those cards moving. Now, the reason I am personally running Mirage over, say, Cable is that Mirage is just better against other non-Loki decks. Now, if you are seeing a ton of the Loki mirror like I was, yeah, you could probably swap Mirage out for Cable. I actually would probably at that point swap out Jeff for Cable because that's just makes your game plan a little bit more consistent. Other than that, there are cards like Nick Fury. I've seen a lot of people running. I think they're too slow. Like Nick Fury and White Queen in particular are both cards that I had in this deck at different points in my run. And it always just felt super clunky because you really want to be able to go, like, for example, the ideal curve for this deck is something like turn one Quinjet, turn two Collector, turn three Coulson, turn four Loki plus, say, Kitty or Loki or Snowguard plus Loki, where you get basically a full hand of Loki discounted cards. And those four drops just don't fit into that game plan. They just clog up your draws, make for really awkward turns. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of times you end up with one of those off of your opponent's cards anyway, because everybody's running Loki decks. So those are some of just reasons that not running certain cards. If you want to run a version with Devil Dino, you are more than welcome to. But this is not your typical deck or card generation strategy that runs Devil Dino. This deck is really looking to tempo, right? This is almost like an aggro deck in other card games where you're wanting to play as many cards as you can and just overwhelm your opponent by going wide onto the board, having every lane at 15 to 20 power, and just make it impossible for them to contest enough to win the game. Now let's go ahead and get into some of the key combos of the deck. Some of these are probably pretty obvious, but for people who maybe haven't played a deck like this before, I did want to go over them. Loki plus Collector is an insane amount of stats. Even if you just do that straight on curve, something like turn two Collector, turn three Loki, you're going to transform like 4 or 5 cards, and Collector is going to be 6 power for 2 already. And that's just insane. So Collector is definitely your best card on curve if you have Loki in hand. Another combo that you're looking for in this deck is Angela and Kitty. This is a really good way to get your Angela up to 6, 8 power. A lot of people right now, because Shuri Kitty is a very popular deck, are running armor. So one of my favorite things to do right now is when they plop down an armor, just go Angela Kitty into that lane and just stack that Angela as much as I humanly can. Because a lot of times with Loki, you're going to be able to get that Angela really, really, really big, especially against Shuri Kitty, where a lot of times your Loki is going to give you more Kitty Prydes and they're going to be zero cost. So you're going to just be able to. I've had Angela get up to 20 power in this deck. It's insane. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different things that combo with Angela. That's another reason I really like Jeff. Anytime you have Angela in your deck, Jeff is just a really nice card because it's something you can play into the Angela lane that you can move to get more value off of her later. Now, against decks that are running Shang, keep in mind both Collector and Angela, it is totally fine to keep them at 8 power. Get them to 8 power, leave them there. It's totally fine. Sometimes you don't really want to do that. Sometimes you can just beat a Shang and you just scale both of them up to the moon and in different lanes, and they just can never beat it because they can't beat both of those lanes with one Shang. So keep that in mind. Another really key combo in this deck is Quinjet plus Loki and all your card generation. Obviously, it's really good with any of the card generation, but it's especially good with Loki because suddenly everything's discounted by 2. So you're able to play things like 6 drops on turn 4 and stuff like that. It gets really, really insane. I've had games where, I mean, Loki does not have the minimum 1 cost requirement for his discounts. So you just get some absolutely absurd turns when you have Quinjet and Loki. A lot of times you don't want to be snapping or playing aggressively with hands that don't have Collector or Angela, but when you have Loki and Quinjet, you often can still just win even without Collector or Angela because you just put so many cards on the board. Last thing I wanted to note, really strong curve for this deck that lacks Angela, Collector, and Quinjet is Snowguard into Mirage into Loki. It's just gives you a ton of cards in hand and gives you a lot of discounts. Loki, honestly, this is a topic for another video probably, but Loki's probably way overtuned. I I love the card. I think it's a really cool idea. He should probably cost like 4 or 5 for the exact effect he has, or he shouldn't discount because the discounts really make this card just really hard to deal with and really hard to play around. It almost reminds me of when bounce was taking over the meta because you get so many discounted cards. It's almost impossible for your opponent to really predict how many stats you can put on board. So keep that in mind. A lot of times you can get away with some snaps where your opponent just doesn't realize that you're going to put 20 power on board on turn 5 and 6. They think their hand's good. It's like say a Shuri Kitty deck and they have Shuri into Red Skull and the Taskmaster, and they think that's an auto win. You can beat that a lot of times with this deck. So next up, we're going to go over proper snapping for this deck. So you're going to see a lot of the same combos listed here as were listed on the last section. That is because those are your really powerful hands. So if you have Collector and Loki in hand, that should be a snap. You're talking about a 2 cost card that's going to carry an entire lane for you. So that's just going to make it very trivial for you to win the game. So anytime you have Loki Collector, you should snap. Kitty and Angela to me is a snap. It just gives you so much tempo early. And then a lot of times, like the nice thing about Kitty is you can just weave it into the rest of your turn. So a good example is something like Angela or Kitty on 1, Angela on 2, Collector plus Kitty into the Angela lane on 3, Kitty plus Loki on 4. You can see how just it scales so astronomically. So anytime you have Kitty and Angela in hand, you can generally find a way to win because you're gonna have one lane that you're scaling so high from the very beginning of the game. Another hand that I generally snap with this deck is Quinjet, Loki, and then any card generation. If you don't have extra card generation to get those extra cards from Loki, it's generally better to wait a couple turns, but otherwise you should be snapping this very early because you're just generally going to be able to out tempo anything your opponent can do, and you're not going to have to worry about what they're doing as much because you just go over you just go over the top a lot of times. That's what's so powerful about this deck is yeah, we run Shang and we run Legion, but honestly a lot of times you don't even end up playing them because everything else you're doing is so much better. You see here I listed Legion superiority. Anytime you have Legion in a deck, I'm going to tell you that you should be snapping when you have a very strong Legion location that is going to probably win you the game against your opponent. One of the locations that shut stuff off in this deck are so much more powerful than they are in other Legion decks because your tempo turns are so powerful early on. Like if you go Loki into turn 4, play a bunch of random stuff, put a ton of power on board, and draw into your Legion on 5, a lot of times you can just like hit the Raptor location or hit the Vault or something like that, and there's just no way that they're going to be ahead going into turn 5 or at the end of turn 5, and you're just going to win. And you'll see here I put for the last thing that I would snap is a strong generation curve. What I mean by that is any hand that has like Quinjet plus Mirage plus Coulson plus Loki or something like that is going to be a very strong hand. Like curving out with Snowguard into Mirage into Loki, something like that. That just gives you a lot of discounted cards and is generally going to be very, very good. And you should probably be snapping it. Those hands, it's okay to wait till turn 2 or 3 to see exactly what your opponent's up to because it doesn't beat everything. Sometimes you just want to make sure that you have a good matchup into whatever they're doing. But in general, I found that if I had Snowguard and like say Mirage, and then I had or even like Collector and then Loki, like those hands are just going to win. You should just be snapping them very regularly. You might lose a few 2-cubers here and there, but you're going to win a lot more 2-cubers, a lot more 4-cubers, a lot more 8-cubers by snapping these hands aggressively and early. Last thing I wanted to go over are replacements. This deck is actually one of the easiest ones I've ever had as far as coming up with replacements for because a lot of the cards are just in there because I like them. Something like Jeff. Let's go over this really quickly. First up, don't play this without Collector. Don't play this without Angela. Don't play this without Kitty. That's my personal opinion. I've seen people running lists that don't have the Kitty package in there. I think it's wrong. It's just like when you can't play solely for Loki in Loki decks. Like Loki should be your high roll. Loki's going to be your best hands, but you need ways to win without Loki, and that's what Collector, Angela, Kitty, all that give you is obviously they get better when you have Loki, but they win you games when you don't have Loki. So don't play this deck without those cards in it. Jeff is very easy to swap out. You can swap him out for Mariah Hill. You can swap him out for Cable. I recommend Cable because there are so many of these Loki decks running around, and Cable stealing like their Loki or their Quinjet or something like that is really, really good. Or like their Collector. Basically, anything you steal from the mirror match is really good with Cable. So I generally like him as a card in the deck. He's honestly probably better than Jeff overall right now because there are so many Loki mirror matches. But what can I say? I like Jeff. Legion is actually a card that has been sliding in and out of these decks for me. Uh, your deck's gonna be worse without Legion. I would definitely play Legion. Legion is so strong as a power play on turn 5 in these tempo style decks, these like aggro-ish decks, because it just a lot of times will lock your opponent out of a location or two and just or like all of them, like Death's Domain, and then just win you the game a turn early. And it's worth the slot in the deck just for all the free wins it's going to get you by shutting them off those turn 6 decks from playing on turn 6. You can swap in something like Fury or Queen. I would honestly recommend White Queen. Like Nick Fury, you never have time to play the cards off of him. Like that's not really what you want to be doing. This deck is much better off playing a lot more low curve stuff. So I definitely prefer White Queen in that spot if you're going to swap out Legion. You can also just swap in something like Cable or something like cheaper just to make your deck more low to the ground. I think that's totally fine as well. I don't think Legion is irreplaceable at all, but it definitely is going to make your deck worse. So just keep that in mind. Statements I never thought I'd say in Marvel Snap. What do you swap in for Snowguard if you don't have it? So Snowguard's actually your best card generation card with Loki because it's so cheap and it gives you 2 cards. It's like an agent. Like if you think about like what the game plan is with Loki, where you just want to transform the cards in your hand into something cheaper, it's literally just an Agent Coulson that costs 1. That's really good. So you want Snowguard in this deck if at all possible, because I mean the location manipulation is very relevant a lot of times. It's like a little mini Legion sometimes with the bear, where it triggers the like something like Savage Lands if they're not playing to it yet, or like the ninja location was really fun. There was a game where I generated a hobgoblin and then I had the bear plus the ninja location, and I just played the bear. I filled up the location, played the bear, gave them a ninja. The hobgoblin went over, and then I had played Kitty there to make sure my location wasn't full, and it was hilarious. They were really mad. Can't blame them. But the Snowguard, the cards definitely come up. So if this is something you opened a while ago and were like, oh man, I opened Snowguard, this sucks. Guess what? Now it's good. If you don't have Snowguard, one of the other card generation cards is fine. It just know it is worse. The fact that Snowguard gives you 2 cards for 1 energy is just insane in this deck. Just the synergies it gives you is crazy. So definitely, if you have her, play her. If not, Agent 13 or Cable or something like that are totally fine. That just about wraps it up. I am trying to make these deck guides a little more organized. So if there are things I'm not adding into these that you are missing or would like to know, let me know. But that's really it I've got for today. This deck is very powerful right now. Like I said, I feel like Loki's probably a bit overtuned. So take advantage. I see a lot of people on my social media telling me that it's really hard to hit infinite for them. Honestly, just play the best decks. This is probably one of the best decks right now. It's super fun to play. The only thing I would say is the only thing that's not super fun to play is the mirror match. So hopefully it dies down a little bit. Other than the mirror match, this deck is super fun to play. Beating your opponent with their own cards over and over and over is hilarious. Scaling giant Angelas and collectors is really fun. I think I've gotten collector up to like 30 or 30 power a couple times. Like it's just insane. Have fun with the deck, play the deck, get your free wins, and I'll catch you next time. And that hurts. That was a really fun card. Nice. I think the curve of this into collector into sucks that that's what we got, man. Collector. We go Quinjet Jeff next turn. Oh, that's a cool Ant-Man. I've literally never seen that. That's really cool. Ooh, we got Loki. All right, that's still the play. We could even extend it a turn and go White Queen next turn. This looks like a Khazar deck. Nakia. Yeah, this looks like a Zood type deck. Which I don't think can contend with. I guess that means that's what we're stealing, and that's all pretty bad. Wait, what? Okay, we can play this next turn. So yeah, we put it off a turn. So we'll play that plus Loki next turn. Seems pretty good. Imagine a Killmonger here, chat. Like, they probably dump hand, right? It's this one, right? Yeah. I think we trust that this is better than the average, because that's 6 power for one. It's really good. And they probably dump their hand thinking they're going to swap. Yeah. All right, there's no way they can test that middle lane with something all that big, right? So we go like this. Is that enough? 2, 4. So we played. Let's count and make sure I made this big enough. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 7. That's not big enough. That's fine. So we just do it elsewhere. Just throw this lane.
I am Iron Man.
Yep. They played it mid. We actually lost.
Victory.
Maybe I should have played the bishop mid, but I don't know. Seems like it worked out to me. And yeah, I think all the change. I like 3 out of 5 is not bad for, in my opinion. Oh, they have Quinjet. All right. Yeah, this is why I did not want to snap. Bro. That's brutal. All right, we're unfavored from this position, but that does not mean we're out. We are down but not out, as they say. Double dino. Well, we're just gonna snipe that right on out of here. No need to wait. Man, but that's so much more fun. I mean, they're totally playing, we should have Shang chat, but this is, oh, no, see, they got us. Wait, where did I play Loki? I played Loki in the middle, right? They have priority. Play around Shang. Mine gets doubled. Wait, oh no. Soloed! Soloed by the Devil Dino. Let's go, chat. I love it.
Victory.
So, Collector. Do we want to start copying this now? So we go up to 4, 5, 6.
Snapped.
No, we wait one turn. Yeah, sure, let's go. This is the nuts, right? I mean, like, am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. I think this is the nuts. Ah. Oh, and you used it. Oh my god, that's so good. Yeah, my Angela's better. Just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. All right, we want to chill on that now, right? Jean Grey. Sure, man. Not sure exactly what you think that's gonna do, but yeah, sure. 5, 6, 7. All right, no more playing on the cloning bats till the last turn, chat. Do we even need to do this? We can do this the last turn. Make really big collectors. All right, well, we're gonna lose the Shang left no matter what, right? So we should just embrace it. Here, you can have a Mirage. I don't think I want a Loki. We can Loki, like I said, we can Loki last turn for the surprise factor. With Kitty Machine World? No. I've been trolling with oh, that was a troll. You were trolling me. I let you troll me. Troll or be trolled. They can't Shang both places, so 6, 9, 11. Yeah, get out. Get out!
Victory.
That was sweet. All right, that was sweet.